To assuage any fears, because I know that sometimes when we talk about women's nether regions, the other sex gets a little antsy. But this bill is actually about saving the lives of people who choose to have their pregnancies to full term. And maternal mortality is defined as deaths that occur during pregnancy or up to 42 days after delivery. And right now we are experiencing a high number of women that are dying within that time, or people that choose to live to the end to have the end of their pregnancy, and it is actually also hitting Hampton Roads pretty hard, to the point where some African American women, statistics show, are up to 3 times more likely to die during this particular time. So what we're trying to use July to do is raise awareness about the things that have been proven to better the health outcomes for both mother and baby.
Is there a motion in the second?
Madam Chair.
To accept the floor amendment. The motion is to accept the floor amendment on HR 111, HJR. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the line amendment is accepted. Okay, and now HJ 111, is there a motion to report the bill?
Motion to report.
In a second?
Madam, can I ask a question?
Yes, Delegate Knight.
Thank you. I think I know what you're trying to do here to heighten awareness, and I agree with heightening awareness on ladies and pregnancy and all this, but sometimes it looks to me like we're trying to stick a knife in there and twist it a little bit sometimes, and I'd bring your attention on the whereas starting on line 28, and some of this I agree with, whereas considerable racial disparities in pregnancy-related mortality exist, okay, with deaths per live birth for black women nearly 3 times higher than such deaths for white women, okay? And then you go on to say the root cause of these disparities is long-standing structural racism. And we're talking about ladies that are having babies from this point forward. And that may have been the case in the past, but I just think that this doesn't do your resolution any good. So, I would like to ask for a line amendment on 29 after white women, semicolon, strike the root cause of these disparities is long-standing structural racism.
Madam Chairman, may I speak to that?
Yes, Delegate Price.
Yeah, so if I could answer the gentleman, Madam Speaker, that in 2016, which was not that long ago, there was a report from University of Virginia that surveyed physicians that were practicing at the time, where it showed that physicians that were practicing in 2016 believed that African Americans experienced pain in different ways than their white counterparts, which is scientifically proven to not be. There is also data that shows that has been highlighted by stars such as Beyonce and Serena Williams and Judge Glenda Hatchett's daughter-in-law that proves that African American women's complaints of pain are not always listened to in the same ways as their white counterparts, and has led to death. And so while I would hope that racism and structural racism and its effects would have been in the past, 2016 and today, it is still happening in our future, in our present, and we are trying to fund initiatives that would counteract this with training. So while I appreciate the sentiment, I can in fact say that structural racism has negative impacts on the health outcomes for African American women.
Move to report with a substitute.
There's a second?
Madam Speaker, I believe there was a motion on the floor.
I don't believe there was a second, Delegate Knight. Oh, there's a second? Okay. Okay. All those...
Madam Speaker,
Yes, Delegate Herring.
speaking to the amendment, please.
Delegate Herring, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, the patron, Delegate Price, put it well, but I also must remind those who want to strike this that it's easy to say that structural racism is putting the knife in and twisting it a bit. I want the person who recommended this, Delegate Knight, to understand African American women have not had the kind of access to gynecological care that many white women have had. And I want you to understand that we have had family members not too long ago die because our grandmothers were not admitted to hospitals. So, it's not like we had great grandmothers and grandmothers who were able to see a physician. And then it has affected, in a lot of communities, how we see healthcare and how we approach our doctors. It is real, and it's something that we have to come to terms with. And I know it's painful, but so is the pain that African American women have experienced and not having that kind of access to healthcare based simply on the color of their skin. And it's not to say that white women have not experienced the same thing, because I dare say that poor white women have also been excluded from the equation. I ask that we not accept this amendment.
There's a motion and a second.
Madam,
Yes, Delegate Knight.
and I certainly recognize that, and the rest of the sentence says, which has contributed to the poor health outcomes along communities of color. I totally agree with that, and the delegate is correct. We have had some on all sides where many, many children have died, and I totally recognize it. I think this is a good piece of legislation. My amendment is not to do any harm. It's just to make this amendment go forward with my vote, and I just want to let it know that if we can take this out, then I can vote for the thing. So, you know, I'm not going to try to get upset with anybody, but I just wanted to try to explain, you know, where I was coming from. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the amendment, Delegate Knight's amendment to HJR 111. We'll vote on the board. All those in favor, use the electronic voting board in support of Delegate Knight's amendment to Delegate Price's. The clerk will close the vote. 5-13, the floor amendment fails. I believe we had a motion already, or I guess maybe we'll need another motion in support of HJR 111. All those in favor of HJ 111 will vote on the electronic voting board. Ayes 14, nays 2, no abstentions. HJ 11 passes.
I thank the
111.
committee for your time.